What's going on, guys? And welcome to your favorite, biggest little soccer podcast on the internet. It is Stateside Footy, and of course, we are back with the Hotspur live stream as Spurs make the trek. I guess they felt like jumping on the bus and moving to one part of London to the other to the Gtech Community Stadium to take on Brentford. It is the second leg of the season against Brentford. Of course, Spurs just a couple weeks back on December 6th beat Brentford 2-0 at the stadium. And so now Spurs are kind of looking, putting themselves in a position where maybe they can string a few matches together, gain some momentum. And of course, when you're going up against a team like Brentford, a team that you know how to beat, maybe this might be a situation where Spurs might be able to kind of piggyback some wins together. But again, they're going to have to be doing without a few different players today. Let's go ahead and take a look at the starting 11 for your Tottenham Hotspur. And of course, as of right now, it looks like Spurs are kind of set up in a 4-3-3. And in net will be Guillermo Vicario. Of course, Spurs clear-cut number one. The back line is going to feature Pedro Porro off on the right. Welcoming back to the starting 11 is the captain, Christian Romero. Obviously out against Crystal Palace. Kevin Danso subbed in and actually did a miraculous job for him in the second half of that match. Mickey Van de Ven will be his battery mate back there in the center back pairing, and Jed Spence will be off the left-hand side. This is kind of interesting. The midfield three is going to be Rodrigo Betancourt, João Palhinha, and Archie Gray. I guess the question which is going to be on my mind is who's going to be responsible, I guess you can say, for pulling the strings. Who is going to be the creative outlet in the midfield? Is this going to be something where maybe Archie Gray is going to drop down a little bit and still kind of play that box to box with Mo Kudus potentially dropping in with Betancourt and Porro supplying the width, or is this going to be something where Archie Gray is just going to be playing that role? We'll find out quite shortly. So this is kind of interesting. And of course, an attacking three with Odegaard on the left. Of course, Odegaard came in against Crystal Palace, played incredibly well to the point where he will grab the start today. And I think it's actually much earned from Wilson Odegaard. Mo Kudus is, starting on the right. And of course, Richarlison will be up top. Richarlison, who had 2 goals chalked off against Crystal Palace, seems to be absolutely in form. And there is no reason why not to think that good things could happen today. On the bench will be Tony Kinski. It looks like they got 2 goalkeepers on the bench today with Austin. And then, of course, they have Radu Dragashin, Kevin Danso, Matisse Tell, Ben Davis, Rando Kola Moani, Dane Scarlett, and Callum Olusesi. The interesting thing, though, is you have 2 goalkeepers, 2 center backs, 2 strikers, 3 strikers, and I guess you can say a center back, left back hybrid. So, as far as, midfield options, there really is not a lot that Spurs have coming off the bench. So this is pretty much what you see is pretty much what you're going to get. I want to welcome a few people in before we turn our attention to Brentford. We have Spurs diehards TTID. Adrian, what's going on, my friend? Hopefully you're doing well. Curious to know what you think about today's starting lineup. Let me know exactly how you feel. Who is going to be that creative outlet for the Spurs in the midfield? Is this something where, unfortunately, since there's not a lot to work with off the bench today, whether Thomas Frank is just going to essentially take the handbrake off of Archie Gray and just let him go buck crazy, or is this something where you think, like, and the way that it looks to me is like maybe they're going to have a little bit more of a withdrawn midfield, and then you're going to see Pedro Porro kind of play as a wingback with Mo Kudus kind of playing in a little bit as that 10. It's going to be interesting. We have Dan Davenport who says, yep, Chelsea have sacked Enzo Maresca. Now, it's interesting because the headline read that he left on his own volition, that they agreed to part ways. But make no mistake, there was some friction between their director of football, their ownership group, and Enzo Maresca. And make no mistake, he was sacked 100%. And of course, this is par for the course for Chelsea. What's funny is we crack on Spurs a lot for their essentially the revolving door at the coaching position. But the thing about it is, it's like Chelsea takes it to an art form. There's usually nobody that's going to be there longer than 2 years. Of course, unless there's trophies. But that being said, even when there is trophies, there's always going to be an excuse to bring in the next. So it's going to be interesting to see exactly who they replace him with. I highly doubt this is going to be an Oliver Glasner type of situation. I would probably think that we're probably going to see Xavi Fernandez potentially go there, which would be kind of a huge disappointment from my end because I actually thought Xavi would have been a good fit for Spurs, but it is what it is. And of course, Happy New Year. Happy New Year to all you guys out there as well, too. It's going to be interesting, right? Spurs finished off 2025 with the win, so it's going to be interesting to see exactly what 2026 has in store. It's been a rough year and a half for Tottenham Hotspur, not just in terms of wins and losses, but when it comes to accountability, when it comes to just the overall vibe and feeling of this club right now. It can't go anywhere else but up at this point. So hopefully we're able to bookend. Hopefully we're able to bookend and get another win today and start 2026 off on the right foot. It's a good opportunity for Spurs, but we'll see. Adrian goes on to say that Gray has played as a 10 at Leeds. That is very true. He was also a right back there as well, too. So, I mean, he does have it in his locker, doesn't have it at the Premier League level. But that being said, when you don't have the options, you're going to have to make do with what you've got. So from that standpoint, it wouldn't surprise me if Mo Kudus kind of came in off the right side to kind of play a little bit more centrally as well too, with Pedro Porro kind of playing that wing back position, providing the width. We'll see. Let's see. How do I feel? We need to spend in the January replacement for Johnson and a striker and a keeper. The interesting thing about this is that for the longest time, I've been not necessarily on the bandwagon with the striker because we are going to get Dominic Solanke back sooner rather than later. And at that point, we're going to have 3 strikers. And I would say, especially for the rest of 2026, having 3 strikers, and of course, Solanke's going to take some time to get caught up. But as of right now, you have one that's in form. Rando Kolo Muani will round into form, and same thing with Solanke. And so from that standpoint, as far as I'm concerned, I don't necessarily think it is a priority outside of perhaps out on the left wing and the left back position and also a midfielder, right? Me personally, if we can actually identify a very good box-to-box, somebody that's actually kind of an 8/10 that can play forward, but it's also, extremely dangerous in the ball that can spray the ball around the pitch. Yeah, that's somebody that I would be very much interested in as well too. So for me, it would be, left wing, midfield, and left back that I'd be targeting. And from that standpoint, if we ended up with, Akaluche, Conor Gallagher, and Nathaniel Brown, that's a hell of a window for Spurs. And then he goes on to say that Liam Rosnier is the leading contender for Chelsea head coach. Cool. Good for them. All right, so let's go ahead and talk a little bit about Brentford because they're going to be set up, I guess you can say, in a 4-3-3 as well too. Kelleher will be in net for them. Their back four of Henry, Collins, Odger, and Coyote will man that one. Their midfield 3 of Janelt, Henderson, and Yarmouk. And their attacking 3 of Kevin Shada, Keane Lewis Potter, and Igor Thiago. I should say that Kevin Shada is absolutely in form right now. And it's kind of interesting that, the depth that they absolutely have between the midfield and their attacking 3, because Mikel Damsgaard is coming off their bench as well too. And it's, they also have Reece Nelson as well too. Maybe not as dangerous, but that being said, it's like, the combination between Kevin Shada and Igor Thiago is 100% dangerous. And of course, we did a good job against them at the lane 4 or 5 weeks ago. So from that standpoint, it's still something that you absolutely have to keep an eye out. By the way, I do want to mention this, right? So when we're actually talking about the battle between the two strikers right now, I actually have these two guys essentially rated even. I would say that both are kind of a 7 to me. Igor Thiago leads the goal battle 11-7. He also leads the XG from open play 9.0 to 3.87. Although Richarlison does have 2 more assists, 3-1, and of course they played the equal amount. So when you're talking about two strikers that, as far as I'm concerned, are coming into this match in form. So that is also something worth considering as well too, as we are getting set for this one. Let's just do ourselves a favor here. And it looks like we're almost ready for kick here. And there's Thomas Frank. There's good old Tommy Frank as he's chewing. Apparently, there's a thing with him chewing his gum right now. Apparently, Spurs fans don't like the way that he chews gum. But as I was mentioning earlier, and we are very close to the opening kick here, that as far as the Premier League fixtures go, I'm going to pull this up as well too, because Spurs, by the way, actually have a relatively decent stretch coming up in the Premier League. Yeah, they have obviously they have Brentford right now, and then of course next week, coming up in a few days on Sunday, they'll get Sunderland. Then they're going to have Bournemouth. So this is an opportunity for Spurs, to really kind of stack some wins, and hopefully it goes well. So we are underway with Brentford holding possession here, as they're going to try to play this one up the right-hand side. And it looks like both Jed Spence and Wilson Odegaard did a very good job right there. It looked like it was Ager trying to push forward. So this ball will go out, and it will be a Spurs throw-in, and it looks like Mickey van de Ven will take this throw-in here, which no, actually it'll be Jed Spence. So we're going to get a good look at how Spurs plan on attacking. And as of right now, yeah, it looks like the midfield two is going to be Betancourt Polinia. And just by the look of it, it looks like maybe Archie Gray is a little forward. But I would probably assume there's going to be moments in the game where that's potentially going to change. And there's Kudus right there to kind of play one forward. And it's Ager who's going to pop this one straight up. But it's going to come down to Betancourt, who's trying to dribble between two defenders, makes a great move, and then just kicks it away down the touchline. As that one will go out, and it looks like it'll be a Brentford throw-in. I will say that Betancourt did a nice little move against two defenders to kind of free himself. He actually did have an area in which one of his teammates were open where they were able to keep possession. Instead, he decides to aimlessly pass it forward and concede possession. But Spurs quick right back out to get possession, and it's Christian Romero. And that's going to get played back to Vicario. And so Spurs reset here in the back with Mickey van de Ven. And, of course, you'll play it all the way to Romero, who finds Pedro Porro. And this is kind of a problem for me. Trying to play out of the back and then try to jailbreak out of the press. Spurs kind of do it to themselves by not having any type of. Here's Archie Gray now in the box. Gray takes one on. That's going to get defended. And Archie Gray had some space right there. And now Kudus will try to play a Hail Mary cross right there. Not exactly the best cross. And it's a problem, too, especially when Spurs are trying to break press. They don't have any flexibility with their midfield too, and they always they're always drop deep. And of course, since there is no movement with that midfield too to try to play a little higher up, there's no outlet, and so the ball either goes back or they're just going to have to punt possession, and it's just not a great way to start off your attacking sequence. But that ball gets played all the way back to Kelleher here. So as Brentford will try to play it down the right side, that's a nice little play right there by Jed Spence. But the ball does get out for a Brentford throw-in. And it's the little things that Thomas Frank continues to preach about consistency. But it's like, there's an old saying when it comes to craziness, right? Doing the same thing over and over and again, expecting a different result, right? That to me is insanity. There's like little things that they could do, that would literally help them play out of the back. And it seems like that's something that Thomas Frank, it seems like he's married to quite a bit, playing out of the back. And you can't keep both of your double pivot withdrawn right at the top of your back four. So this will actually get out for a corner. So this will be Brentford's first corner. And it looks like it'll be Janalt. We'll take this one. As it looks like they got three. Going to run into the back post. That one's going to get played short-headed. Oh, it's a goal. Good. Great initial stop right there by Vicario. Nobody was looking for Kevin Shada. Oh, and they're going to say it was offsides. Oh. I was like, we can't concede. Yeah, and it looks like Shada was way offside. Ooh, Spurs dodged a bullet. A bullet. As we will proceed along here, as we are about 5.5 minutes in here to the first half. And now Vicario will send everybody deep as they will play this one long. As Vicario plays it long, headed forward by Mo Kudus, but Brentford now will play this long as they're looking forward to Igor Thiago. Cleaned up right there by Romero, and now Vicario plays it long. Oh, that's a nice tackle right there. As Wilson Odebear does a good job of holding possession, but that touch was just a little too much. And now it looks like Odebear is down. And it looks like he secured a whistle here. So this will be a free kick here. And a nice little dangerous area here for Spurs. As it looks like it'll be Pedro Porro, who is the free kick taker here. And this ball is going to get played deep to the right-hand side of the box, headed forward by Richarlison. There's Betancourt, but right there is Kelleher. So much to do about nothing right there on that free kick. And Spurs right now, granted, we're only 7 minutes in, but they have yet to stretch their legs in the attack. As both teams really have yet to establish themselves. As that one will get played back to Kelleher. And now this is Ajer. As they'll move this out to Collins here. And it looks like this might be Janalt here. who's going to play this one forward. It looks like he's got Igor Thiago. But right there was Van de Ven shutting that shit down quick. And now it's Mo Kudus who has to track all the way back just to keep possession, plays it all the way to Vicario. And Vicario plays it off the left-hand touchline, and there's Odebear. Makes a nice little spin. Too heavy of a touch, but I think that's going to go out. And it'll be a Brentford throw-in. So Spurs are kind of dealing with Brentford's pressure. And this is one of the things that Brentford didn't necessarily really do a lot in their first meeting with Spurs, which was press, allowing Spurs to kind of, hold possession a little bit deeper. Today, it's a little different story. They're actually pressing the ball quite well, and Spurs have to slow things down now. Instead of being able to break right there, would have been a good opportunity to break as Romero tries to play one into Richarlison. And now Brentford will have possession. Here's Thiago on the right-hand touchline. And he's going to have to play this one back as they move it all the way back to Ager. And now here's Collins. As Spurs did a pretty good job right there. Richarlison pressing the ball right there. As Henderson now will play it all the way back. And it's Collins now as they try to cross the midline. As it looked like Collins was trying to find Thiago as Romero heads it forward. But still, Brentford will hold possession here. As they play this forward. We're right to Pedro Porro, and Porro automatically will just try to play one forward. Not sure exactly what the plan was there. So again, Brentford will have possession, and I just, for the life of me, can't understand exactly what the plan is right now. That's a good turnover. Here's Betancourt, feeds it into Richarlison in the box. Richarlison cross. There's just nobody there. Hustling forward is Pedro Porro. But that's a good pass right here as it's Shada trying to work his way forward. Good pass right there to Thiago. Here's Jordan Henderson. Henderson will hold as now he's going to try to play it forward. Good pass into Thiago. And there's a turnover right there. As Van de Ven will play it back. And it looks like Shada is down. As we'll take a look at this real quick. Yeah, I don't know. It looks like Shada is looking for a whistle right there. Much to do about nothing. Down that down that left-sided touchline right there. As play resumes, as Shada got the whistle to stop play, and now all of a sudden we resume here with Spurs in possession. It'll be Christian Romero as he's going to try to walk this ball forward to the halfway line. As Polinia plays it back to Van de Ven. Here's Zhao. And that ball, credit right there. That ball's they're going to say that ball gets out. As an errant pass from João Palhinha as he was looking for Mohamed Kudus. Apparently it gets out, so Brentford now holds possession. Spurs have, through the first 10, 12 minutes, have not looked good at all pressing forward. As a matter of fact, they're still having link-up issues. Having a hard time trying to establish their attack, but defensively, They're holding their shape quite well. That's a nice little play right there by João Palhinha. 1v1. That's a nice little sliding tackle by João Palhinha. And I think that is going to get out for a Brentford throw-in, as it looks like Palhinha and Yarmouk were taking a piss out of each other right there. And this ball's going to go in. It's going to be Jordan Henderson, as he plays it back to Ager. As Coyote plays it back, and now all of a sudden here comes Brentford. Nice little tip forward right there, as Yarmouk was looking for Shada, but standing in the way was Pedro Porro, and now Spurs will try to reset. And that ball, that was nearly turned over right there. Good sliding tackle from Jed Spence. His home dude was free, as Spence will lay it off. Nearly turned over again. Spurs have been absolutely sloppy with the ball, as Keane Lewis Potter almost made another attempt right there. Look how close their midfield pivot is to each other, and look how close they are to that back line. There's no movement. There's no forward movement. As Ager will pop this one up, and it'll fall down to Kevin Schad. As Igor Thiago will play it forward. Here's Yarmouk now, as Brentford's going to try to build up over the box. That's a deflection. Held in. There's a cross. That takes a deflection. Mickey Van de Ven does a good job right there. But Richarlison completely misses it. Henderson plays it to the right. Here's Coyote. And that ball is finally going to be cleared. Sloppy from Spurs. Apparently, this is our thing, right? Bad first halves. To be honest, we weren't exactly all that good looking in that first half against Crystal Palace either. You would like to see some decisiveness. But one of the things that Spurs were able to do in the first meeting, especially with Xavi, who, by the way, is out in the second, serving his second game of a three-match ban, was they were able to be a little direct on the counterattack. They were able to play, the ball in onto Xavi's right foot on the counterattack, and it opened up channels and it spread out center backs, and they were able to get some goals from it. Today, not so much. They don't necessarily have that type of. They don't have that type of midfield clinician, if you will. As Van de Ven will play this long, looking for Kudus, as that ball will get played out. So it'll be a Brentford throw-in here, as we are 16 minutes into the first half, as Spurs have yet to really establish their attacking identity so far in this match. As that ball will get played out. The only saving grace is that Spurs is the January transfer window is open. So you would like to think that within the next 5 days, Spurs will have announced their first incoming. The quicker that we can get players through the door, the better. As Archie Gray will head this one forward, finds Richarlison, and Richarlison does something as he plays it forward. Here's Odegaard around the corner. Odegaard. Oh, that's good defense right there by Ager. And he's going to clear this one. Chasing it is Kevin Schad and Pedro Porro. Porro wins that. So here's Mohamed Kudus. As Kudus does a good job of holding possession. And he lays it off. Here's Betancourt now. Here's Odegaard. Deep off the left-hand touchline. And Spurs will try to recycle it again. That's a good little one-touch right there. Oh, good defense right there. But Spurs will take this one right back, and it's going to be Betancourt. as Pedro Porro has got nowhere to go, so he plays it all the way back to Vicario, and Spurs will try to start over again as Van de Ven will outpace his defender. As Spurs are stuck in a holding pattern, if you will, not able to get forward as they are stuck playing the ball back. As this one reaches Vicario. And Vicario will just send this one forward. As Richarlison loses his battle with Azier, there's a ball that's going to get played forward. It looks like it's going to be Igor Thiago. That's good defense right there between him and Christian Romero. As Romero just looks at him smiling. As Henderson will play this one in, headed away by Richarlison. As that one gets deflected wide, it'll get out. And it'll be a Brentford throw in here. As it looks like it'll be Coyote who will be responsible for the throw-in. By the way, Spurs have two out for the AFCON. Obviously, Yves Bissouma and Pap Sarr. Also for Brentford, Dango Artera and Frankie Onyeka are also out for Brentford as well, too. As it looks like there was a little bit of a brouhaha in the box between Shada, Azier, and Rodrigo Betancourt there. As we are getting set here for this throw-in. And it's going to be cleared by Caduce. As Richarlison was given chase right there. And it looks like Kelleher will just play this long. As Spurs will take it away. Here's Pedro Porro now. And he's just going to send this one long, trying to find Richarlison. There's just nobody there. Except for Azier. As they'll play this out to Collins. Switch! As that ball is going to get played forward. Good coverage right there from Mickey Van de Ven. Nearly taken away as Betancourt is going to have to play this down to Vicario. As it takes a deflection off a Yarmouk right there. And now Brentford's going to try to press forward. As that ball into the box will go all the way out past the end line right there. So this will be a goal kick for Spurs. As things seem to be going pretty well for Ken Andrews in his Brentford side. They lost actually quite a bit of talent this summer. The only saving grace was the fact that they did get Igor Thiago back. They still have Damsgaard. But, losing Wisa, losing Brian Mbembo, massive pieces to their team last year. But yet, that's Brentford, man. They just retool. And it looks like they're doing Brentford things this year as Vicario will play this long. As that ball will go down, giving chase was Wilson Odebear, but it's going to get played out for a Spurs throw-in off the left-hand side. So as Van de Ven will have to come down. It looks like Jed didn't want to go back and retrieve the ball there. He's too good. He's too good for that type of nonsense. As that ball's nearly taken away right there. As it was looking like that was Yarmouk. Played it out. So Spurs again will have to throw in. As they're going to try to play this forward. And Coyote will just knock it out. So Spurs are moving up the pitch, one throw in at a time. as that one's going to be headed forward, but right into the possession of Brentford. So here's Jordan Henderson now. Henderson, nice play by Mickey Van de Ven, cutting away the passing lane as he was trying to play one forward to Igor Thiago. And Brentford has to hurry up the throw because Richarlison was doing a good job of pressing the ball right here. Defensively, Spurs are doing a good job, I guess, holding their defensive shape. But, we're nearly 30 minutes in. And it looks like Shada will give Pedro Porro a shove in the back, so this will be a Spurs throw-in. We're nearly 30 minutes in, and Spurs have yet to really establish an attacking plan. Now, we can say that that because we don't necessarily have a 10, blah 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 blah, but the reality is they look exactly the way they've looked for the last couple months. As Brentford now will hold possession, it makes its way all the way down to Coyote off the right-hand side. As Wilson Odegaard I thought there was going to be a turnover right there. As Wilson Odegaard essentially played Coyote into Richarlison right there, but nice back pass right there. And that's a good 1-2 right there. There's a ball in, headed away by Van de Ven. Good 1-2 along the right-hand touchline for Brentford. They got down in a hurry. Just not exactly the greatest cross. Here's Odegaard. Yeah, they're gonna call a whistle. It looked like he was absolutely bullied off the ball right there. As it looked like it might have been Coyote there, responsible for the whistle. But Spurs will have possession here. And that's, as Pedro Porro will play it up to Kudus. Here's Archie trying to fight his way out of pressure here. That ball's taken away. Here's Thiago now. And that's, nice play by Rodrigo Betancourt to pick the back pocket. And now Jed Spence is going to have to sail one along as Brentford will hold possession. As looks like Yarmouk. And there's a whistle. That'll go against Brentford. As Janelle will get the naughty whistle right there. The one thing Brentford has done a very good job today is pressing the ball. That is the main difference between this match and the match that took place on December 26th. Spurs actually were able to hold possession. They were able to essentially walk the ball to the halfway line to set up and use the midfield to gain some turnovers where they were able to use their counterattack effectively. This time around, that's not available. Spurs are having a hard time getting up the pitch because they can't play out of Brentford's press. And we're seeing the results. Spurs just literally cannot hang on to the ball here. Here's Odegaard in a central area. Tried to cut in. Turnover. Here's Thiago. Try to chip over Van de Ven there. And it's going to be Henderson. Plays it off to the right. Here's Coyote. Played it back in. Here's Yarmouk. And they're going to have to reset here. As Azier will play it all the way to the left-hand side. It's Collins now. As Spurs have 10 behind the ball. as it just looks like Spurs are going to be okay, are going to be just quite fine without the ball today. But unfortunately, this is not exactly the tactical setup you'd think you'd want to see against Brentford. No 10 or no 10. Maybe this was an opportunity to kind of play Kolomwani off the right with Mohamed Kudus kind of in that 10 in that 10 role, as that ball's going to get played all the way to the left. Here's Henry, poked away by Pedro Porro. Now Kudus will try to run with it. That's a good defensive job right there. It was 3 versus 1. And now coming back down the left-hand side, it's Brentford. I just don't see the tactical vision in this one, as we're 30 minutes in now, and Spurs are absolutely clueless in the attack. As Brentford, now their only saving grace is the fact that Brentford really hasn't been really all that dangerous. Sure, they've held on to possession. They haven't really done much with it. As that ball gets played into Shota, who plays it back to Collins. And now they'll switch side. Here's Coyote against Odebear. And they have to drop this one back, all the way back to Kelleher. As Spurs essentially have played the last minute trying to chase the ball here. As it's Azier still. That's a good pass to the mid. As Yarmolenko was looking for Henry, but that one will go out. Spurs will have to throw in. I guess the other problem that I'm having is the fact that we're absolutely boring in the attack. Nobody's making runs. As Spurs are spending a great deal of time passing between center backs. As Van de Ven finds Richarlison. Here's Gray. And he's got space. Here's Gray. Lays it off to Jed. And now they'll cycle it between their two midfielders here before it makes its way over to Pedro Porro. Here's Kudus. As that ball will go in. That's going to get headed to the back post. Here's Richarlison. And Spurs don't do anything with that one. That was their first real look. As it looks like it was Polinia that played it in. And Azier heads it straight up, but then there was Richarlison who dumped it right to Gray, who got a head on it. Miraculously, it finds its way back to Richarlison off the deflection off the Collins. And Richarlison was trying to chip it into the far post. It goes insanely wide. So Spurs miss an opportunity right there to grab a goal. As that ball comes down and finds Rodrigo Betancourt. Here's Jed Spence now, who slows things down. Just once, I'd like to see some of our Hawaii players just push the pace. Take a defender on. Show some grit. Here's Van de Ven. Plays it forward. And there's a whistle against Richarlison right there. It looks like it's going to be Azier. As Spurs win a free kick. as we are now in the 32nd minute. I'm curious to know how you guys feel about this match because, quite honestly, this has been miraculously boring. Not exactly, Spurs aren't exactly a first half merchants here, as I guess you can say historical context to the current season. They've done most of their damage in the second half. Although against Brentford on the 6th of December, they got both of theirs in the first half. But again, credit Brentford, man. They've adjusted, and they're playing much like how most teams will play against us, which is press. And they've done a very good job of it. And Spurs have yet to figure out a way forward, as that ball will get out. So this will be a Spurs throw-in. And it's going to be interesting to see what type of tactical adjustment Thomas Frank is going to have to make in this in the half. He's going to have to do something because there's been absolutely zero ball movement from central areas. The Spurs just don't necessarily have, a clinical playmaker, which kind of begs the question of why didn't he just take a flyer with Mohamed Kudus in that role and maybe play Randall Colomwani off the right. It's not ideal, but at least you're going to have somebody that you can play into central areas. As it looks like this will be Coyote who will carry this long throw in for Brentford. As that one will go in. Headed away. And it looks like Yarmolenko took a crack at it. And that one sails over. This last match against Crystal Palace, they looked a little bit better in the second half against a tired Crystal Palace team. But in this one, I don't think the Spurs are going to have luxury unless there is some sort of tactical switch as we prepare for the second half. This first half has kind of been a bust. And Mickey Van de Ven will go give it a chase as it gets out. And it looks like Van de Ven has been Jed Spence's ball carrier today, huh? His throw-in chipper. As Spence will play this long. And that'll get out. So Spurs will do it again. As Thomas Frank is busy taking notes. Well, at least he's prepared, as they'll try this one again. Here's Richarlison, who will make that switch to the right side. Here's Pedro Porro. As he'll play it forward to Kudus. 1v1, here's Kudus. Lays it off. Porro now in the box. Headed away. As Brentford now will try to clear as it sails over the head of Thiago. As Thiago didn't get the call there. As that's played back to Bentancur. It looks like Spurs will try to shuffle to the left-hand side. Nope. Check that. They're going to play to the right now. And here's a long ball from Porro. As that ends up back on the foot of Pedro Porro. It looked like Brentford was about to break right there, although that pass was well too long. So here comes Brentford now. And it looks like there's a whistle for offsides right there. So we're approaching the 40th minute here. 7 minutes to the half. Neither team really have looked great getting forward. Let's just be perfectly honest. Yes, Brentford has done a good job holding possession, but they've done absolutely nothing with it. Spurs at times have looked like they couldn't string 2 passes together, but they've had the one really decent chance as that ball forward literally went to nobody. Nice play right there by Polina. He's going to spring Odebear forward. Here's Odebear. 2v1, chips it back to Jed Spence. Spence finds Richarlison and tries to play a ball forward. He thought Spence was going to make a run. But Spence was like, nah, homie, that's not what we're doing. And so that possession goes for nil for Tottenham. Ugh. Every week, man, I do this. And every week it's the same shit. As Kelleher will play this long over the head of Shada. Right there is Igor Thiago. And yeah, they're gonna whistle Romero right there for a push in the back. But you would like to think that this transfer window couldn't come quick enough because Spurs definitely need reinforcements. And what I'm hoping is that they are going to try to be quick about it and try to get reinforcements through the door as quick as they possibly can. Because as this month drags on, the schedule, the degree of difficulty in the schedule gets a little harder. Here's Kudus now. And now Gray will try to pop it forward, and he's got Pedro Porro. Tries to head it on. And it looks like Brentford will just play this back to Vicario. Understanding that Spurs, I guess the weakest point in the attack might be the left side, as they do need both a left wing and a left back. But I would probably also put a creative, deep line, playmaker on that list of things to do as well too. I think they're going to be okay with the strikers that they have in house. Granted, if there is an opportunity to bag a striker, you bring him in. And if that's Samu Agahawa, fair, as Brentford will clear this, and Spurs will start over again. I guess that's, for me at least, that is the redeeming quality about January is maybe we will see an end to this horseshit attack. As Natesky, Happy New Year to you, my friend. I mean, that's, essentially what this has been. It's just been a never-ending cycle of a toothless attack. Here's Jed Spence, who will play it off. That's the thing. It's like instead of making that inverted run and getting the ball forward, Jed Spence just pulls up. It's like that would have been a great little 1-2 right there between him and Spence, Odebear and Spence right there. As there's going to be a switch now to the left-hand side. Here's Odebear. Good switch right there by Polina. And now Odebear will try to go 1v2. And, of course, that's going to get out. Oh, they'll say play on. Here's Spence. Spence cuts in. And that's going to be headed away. A little ray of sunshine right there. And there's nobody there except for Kelleher. As Spurs just cannot figure anything out here. They don't have a key to unlock it. I hate to use this term. I feel like they're flailing. That's the best way to describe it. As that ball is going to try to get played forward. as Quixote does a good job of heading it forward. As Spurs find a turnover here high. Here's Odebear trying to cut in. Lays it back. Chip forward. As that'll get out for a throw-in. As we're in the 43rd minute now. 2 minutes, about a minute and a half until half. A minute and a half until the until halftime here. I can't imagine there's going to be a lot of stoppage time. As Christian Romero will take this throw in as Spurs try to long throw this thing. As it's going to go short. But right there is Odebear, who cracks one. That's going to take a deflection. And that ball is going to get played out. Oh, I'm surprised there was no foul right there. As Keen Lewis Potter clipped Odebear. But here's Shada trying to cut in. Oh, good defense right there. Oh, and Henderson nearly found Igor Thiago at the back post. And they say play on. Here's Jed Spence. Jed. But he's not going to make that pass on his right foot. As Odebear actually had a step. A left-footed left back would have probably hit that. And it looks like, Keen Lewis Potter clipped Odebear right there. And this was Brentford's first real opportunity as Pedro Porro came in to stop Shada. Henderson played one to Thiago at the back post, but good defense right there by Spurs. As this will be a free kick for Spurs, as we are now 1 minute of added time here. As Kudus couldn't find anything up that right side, so had to play it back. Here's Van de Ven. Here's Porro. And that's the end of the first half. And Thomas Frank absolutely does not look happy at all. I don't blame him. Let's go ahead and get into the stats. Let's just get into the stats. All right, so far the possession battle will stick with Spurs 51-49, 51% to 49%, so it's pretty much even. XG right now will stay with Spurs 0.46 to 0.17. Total shots 4 for Spurs, 3 for Brentford. Shots on target is 1-1. Neither have had big chances, so there's neither opportunity to miss those big chances. Accurate passes, 198 Spurs, 189 Brentford. Fouls committed, Brentford 4, Spurs 2. And Brentford leads the quarter battle 1-0. That's not surprising at all. When we're looking at XG from open play, Spurs 0.35, Brentford 0.00. XG from a set place, Brentford 0.17 to Spurs 0.10. When we look at the shots a little bit in depth, Spurs have 3 shots inside the box to Brentford's 1. Brentford leads the shots outside the box 2-1. As we're looking at passes, total Spurs 241, Brentford 232. Passes in the own half, Spurs 108, Brentford 103. Passes in the opposition half, 90-86. accurate long balls, Brentford 13, Spurs 11 accurate crosses, 1-0 Brentford. Spurs have 13 to Brentford 12 throws, touches in the opposition box 9-5, and Brentford was offside 3 times. Defensively, Spurs lead the tackle battle 12-8. Both teams have 5 interceptions. Brentford has 3 blocks to Spurs 0. Both have 11 clearances. And in the duel battle, Spurs 33-15. Ground duels 23-11 Spurs, aerial duels 10-4 Spurs, and successful dribbles 7-1. So from that standpoint, you would probably say, okay, cool. This seems like it was an even first half, but that's the thing. It's like stats will say one thing, but then the eye test will say something completely different. And when I look at this first half, it was absolutely wretched. I use the term flailing because it didn't seem like Spurs really had a clear cut idea of how they were going to link up play. Without a clear cut 10. Papsar is in AFCON. Xavi's out for another match, and so from that standpoint, they don't necessarily have that guy in the middle of the park in which they can play off, right? Which is kind of crazy that maybe he didn't flirt with moving Mohamed Kudus into that role. Now, granted, I like Archie Gray, but that being said, he's a little bit more suited as a box-to-box type of midfielder. And so from that standpoint, I was a little head scratching to see that Archie Gray was going to start in that role. Personally, I probably would have played Randall Colomwani across that front line. Granted, yeah, the right side's not exactly his natural position, but that being said, it's like you would feel like with a guy like Mohamed Kudus and his ability on the ball probably would have served this team a little bit better. We probably would have got, a little bit more forward runs. We probably would have produced a little bit more corners. As of right now, we have 0 corners. So from that standpoint, there's going to have to be a tactical switch at the half. As things were progressing, you kind of felt like maybe Brentford might pop one out on the counter. Of course, they nearly did right there. So I guess credit Spurs defense. But that being said, it's like, we can't continue to play this way without any type of, front-footed ambition. I guess that's the word. That's the term I'm willing to use, right? Like every single time Spurs will get into an attacking sequence, there's nobody playing off of anyone. There's no 1-2s down either side. Neither wide player seems like they're interested in taking on their defenders. It just seems like more often time than not, the ball is going backwards or it's going side to side. Nobody's making any type of interior runs. So there's not a lot of opportunities to play the ball forward if you're trying to chip one over. And it just feels like, essentially the type of play that we saw against Chelsea. There was just no rhyme or reason. There's just nothing going on. And so I guess the question that I pose for you guys is like, what has to change in the second half? I would probably flirt with the idea of moving Mo Kudus in. This isn't anything against Archie Gray. It's just at this time, there's just, there is nobody to target in the middle of the pitch. And so from that standpoint, we're just literally just treading water on their wings. And so, I would probably make that move. And if that means we're bringing in Randall Colomwani, or if we're bringing in Matisse Tell, so be it. You have options for that, if you want to do it. As of right now, Spurs forward players, check this out. Right now, Mohamed Kudus is being rated at a 6.1. Archie Gray is being rated at a 6.4. Odebear is a 6.6, and Richarlison's a 6.8. So it lets you know, where the strength of this team is right now, because every single defensive player is rated out at a 7 point or better. That's including the midfield pivot of Betancourt and Polina. So it just lets you know exactly how we were set up, and without any semblance of somebody that is going to be able to pull the strings here. It feels like this is either going to play to a 0-0 draw, or maybe, just maybe, we just might get lucky. And maybe we'll, maybe we'll just get lucky and pop one in somewhere along the way in the next 45. But unfortunately, this is not ideal. Oh, terrible. What is this remembrance of? They're showing Dennis Bergkamp. Oh, no, you don't. Thierry Henry. Oh, I see. Okay. I guess they're highlighting the Immortals of 2003, 2004. I was like, what is this rubbish? What is this halftime rubbish? Yeah, that's the thing. It was a disappointing first half. The link-up play wasn't there, and it's kind of hard to do it when you're using a guy like Archie Gray. This would have been the perfect game for a guy like Lucas Bergvall, who, Bergvall was allegedly supposed to be available. It looks like Thomas Frank decided to keep him out as a precaution. So this, it went to Archie Gray. I probably would have made the decision of maybe even playing Rodrigo Betancourt up higher. It's not his suitable position. But that being said, if you're asking me, which one might do you a job a little bit better, is that going to be Archie Gray or Betancourt? You probably would have to, point to Betancourt. But as of right now, this is going to have to change, and it's going to have to change quick, because not only are we absolutely rubbish in the buildup, but we also don't have a counterattack at all. So it almost feels like we're trying to get our boat upstream without a paddle here. So, but that being said, man, the window is open. The window is open. And I'd be kind of curious to see exactly when the first incoming it will come through the door. I look at this as an opportunity to strengthen in the right areas. And again, it's weird. Me personally, I don't understand the fascination with Savinho. I don't rate him that much. And I don't necessarily even think we're going to get him. And so that kind of puts us in a situation where we might have to, be a little bit more creative. There are guys out there that, if we're willing to spend the cash, if we're able to do it, then I don't think there should be any excuses why not actually to go out there and get your targets. Me personally, I'm just not I'm not a big believer in Savinho. Me personally, I don't think that I don't think he solves the problem. And I also, here's the other thing that I also think happens as well too. I think that Spurs actually target two wingers. I think they're going to get two from each side. All things considered, that we absolutely had a massive gap on the left side. Didn't replace Sonny, and so obviously there's going to need on the left as well too. But allowing Brennan Johnson to walk means that you're probably going to have to get in another winger. because as of right now, Brennan, is the backup for Mohamed Kudus, and so if anything should happen, to Kudus, we don't have anybody else on the right side that that can play it. So, if you're kind of trying to connect the dots here, as far as I'm concerned, that's looking like that might be a priority. Now, whether that's getting a guy like Akaluche, who personally I want, it's going to be interesting to see, man. I think Akaluche and getting maybe even Jan Diamante, if we can get both of those guys and maybe pair him with the midfield, that Chris Smith guy from AZ Alkmaar is the guy that we want. Not only can he play higher up the pitch as a 10, but he's also, on the verge of being a world-class 8. And that's, those are the type of pieces that you build around. And I would have no problem paying 60 mil to get a guy like Chris Smith in. Happy New Year. I believe that we will win. Well, you're the only one, sir. You're the only one that believes we're going to win today. As players are coming out onto the pitch now, as we're getting ready to start the second half. You know what, Carl? I'm glad that you have that belief. I certainly am holding out hope. But the reality is like this team looks absolutely lost so far today. We are getting set to start the second half, as now Spurs will switch sides as they play from left to right, and it looks like Spurs will hold possession. All right, my crystal ball here. This ball gets played back to Van de Ven, who plays it up the right-hand side to absolutely nobody. Let's see if this actually plays out correctly. There's one. Here's Vicario. And he boots it up the right-hand side. What do you know? It actually hit Richarlison on the foot. I don't understand that as an opener of playing it back to your keeper and then playing it long, essentially conceding possession, as Brentford now will hold it. Here's Yarmouk. And nice little play by Archie Gray to come in and grab possession, as he had to drop deep to get it. As Van de Ven will play it forward. Here's Jed Spence. And Spence make a nice little run, plays it forward to Yodebear, who tries to play it across the 6-yard box, but Mo Kudus was not there. Good forward run right there. That kind of took me by surprise a little bit, because that certainly wasn't there in the first half. But Jed Spence actually played one onto the foot of Wilson Odebear right there. And Wilson tried to play it across. Well, that's something new. As Shada will head this one forward. Here's Thiago. Lays it down for Henry. And it's Pedro Porro to knock it out. So this will be a throw in here. As here's Shada. Shada around the corner on Polinia. And now Henry will play a high looping cross, as Vicario will punch this one out. As Quixote plays it back to Henderson. And now Quixote will play it forward to Keane Lewis Potter. Ooh. Oh, ho, 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 ho. How is that not a yellow? Keane Lewis Potter just dragged him down by the scruff of his collar right there. Holy shit. Oh, you're still hungover? Fair. Okay. I don't see how the bench is going to change this game. Maybe Arcam. Yeah, maybe. Me personally, I would have taken Archie Gray off. As much as I like Gray, I probably would have put Tell or Arcam off the right and just allow Kudus to drift in those central areas, just so we actually can place, we can actually play into central areas. Nice little touch right here. Here's Richarlison. He's going to get knocked down. So this will be a Spurs free kick in a dangerous area right here. as it looks like Richarlison here is just trying to regain his sorts here. If Spurs do manage, by the way, if we do manage to score a goal, that's where, me personally, that's where I think this game ends. I do not see a multiple goal performance today. And by the way, dropping points today would be absolutely disastrous. They're like, as far as I'm concerned, this is a match where we've already beaten them. We should still have the combination to their save to unlock another victory. And this should be a 3-point match here. But if this thing ends 0-0 and we're only able to get a point out of it, that's an absolute misfire. As Porro will play this short. Here's Kudus, and Kudus misfires here. But he's able to hold possession. 1v2, good pass right there. Here's Spence. As it looks like Spurs completely wasted this free kick opportunity. As Jordan Henderson gives Betancourt chase. And they're going to have to play this one back. Here's Polina. Absolutely clueless. As they'll try to play this one forward. I think this is going to be offside. No. Spence played it in. As that's a deflection right there. Spurs are able to keep possession as Kudus will fire one over the crossbar. We're just flailing. That's what it is. Yeah, Santa brought me this shirt right here. And brought me the yellow, and I also got a Sounders third. So quite happy with that. What about you? What did Santa bring you for the holiday? A Terry's chocolate orange? I got one of those. I like Terry's chocolate orange. Oh, Odabera with a misstep right there. Trying to play it forward. And now Brentford will set up. As Henry will play it to Collins here. As they circle all the way to the right side here, it's Quixote. Man, wouldn't it have been nice if we even had Papsar available for this match? But it looks like Thomas Frank is just being conservative in this one. As that one's taken away, it's Romero. Here's Richarlison. As Spurs win the ball back a little higher up. Betancourt. Here's Spence. Lays it off. Cross to the backside. Headed away, but there's Pedro Porro. And it's Van de Ven. As Polina will try to play it into Kudus. Oh, and Kudus got there, but so did Kelleher. And now here comes Brentford trying to break. It's Shada. Shada beats Pedro Porro. And there just looks like there's a whistle. I'd even take Kevin Shada on my team right now. Oh, okay. Dude, I'm a big fan of getting clothes on Christmas. I don't care what anybody says. I like it. I also got a nice jumper as well too. It's got the the pockets in the front too. It's like a hybrid sweater hoodie type of combo that I absolutely love. As this one gets played all the way back. As Kelleher will play this forward. As it lands to the foot of Thiago. Here's Shada. There's the overlap with Yarmouk. Plays it in. Oh, what a miss hit. Oh, Spurs are absolutely lucky. As there's a whistle against, there's going to be a whistle right there against Henry, against Mo Kudus. As Keane Lewis Potter had the best look as Shada hits Yarmouk on the overlap, and he plays it in. And Keane Lewis Potter had the underlap, and he was right there. And he just duffed it. Absolutely just scolded it. And that could have been 1-0 Brentford. Instead, it is still 0-0 here in the 53rd minute of what has to be one of the most boring matches I've seen Spurs play. And here we go. Here's Henry now crossing the midway line. Plays it forward. Here's Kevin Shada. As Yarmouk will play it in. As Jordan Henderson will lay it back. Here's Kevin Shada now. Good deflection. Here's Jordan. Plays it across. Here's Quixote. Oh, nice play by Betancourt. As that'll get out. Good hustle right there by Rodrigo. What is, by the way, just out of curiosity, audio, what is the oh yeah, by the way, notice Brendan Johnson wasn't available for this one. That's also interesting. What was the best Christmas present you guys that you ever received? Just out of curiosity with that one. As Brentford here will play it back to Asia, and that goes back to Kelleher. So Brentford here will reset as Brentford has the best opportunity of the second half. Oh, as Christian Romero was lucky there was no whistle right there. That was a good challenge right there by Romero. And it looks like Brentford is doing like there is absolutely no fear that Brentford is showing because there's just absolutely no balls going into the middle of the park, right? So you look at exactly how their defense is set up, and they're literally bringing extra bodies on each touch line to make sure Spurs can't advance. There's that ball into the mid right there. Here's Archie Gray. Gray will hold possession, trying to get around. Oh, no whistle. They're going to say good challenge for Brentford. I kind of agree with that. And they're going to whistle Romero for over the back right there. As we watch this again, credit for Archie Gray for staying with it as he gets in. Oh, and Kevin Shada. Oh. As Kevin Shada brought his foot around. That actually probably should have been a penalty. Ooh. So there was, by the way, and that now that you see that Romero replay on that challenge, all of those were blown. Both of those were blown calls right there. But there is a VAR check going on right now, and there's going to be a yellow card. Is this going against Betancourt? As Jordan Henderson has something to say. So yeah, it's going to be a checking for a possible penalty here. And it absolutely should be checked because Kevin Schade just brought his left leg right over the front and impeded his way through. Like 100%, that probably, that's probably a penalty. But apparently the VAR check says, no, we're good. So it'll be a free kick here. And it'll be, so the yellow goes against Jordan Henderson. As Kelleher will play one into the box. That's going to get headed forward. And that'll get out for a goal kick. But interesting because, by the way, that's 100% a foul. I'm just saying, it's like you can't impede a player's path forward, especially if you put your foot out and literally take his legs out underneath him. In any other part of the pitch, that's 100% a foul, and in some contexts, it's a yellow. But not in a goal-scoring opportunity, apparently. As Vicario will play this long down the right-hand side. And it'll go right to Quixote. And Spurs will concede possession. Let's see. Yeah, 100%. I agree with you. So he says in 1992, he got a Commodore Amiga 600. I was 12 and started my journey into the music production. Nice. Nice. I like it, man. As here comes Brentford. As Jordan will play one forward. As Shada tried to tip it. Oh, they're gonna say it. Oh, are they gonna give Polina the yellow here? As the tackle right outside the box. As we see it again, Polina. Yeah. A little bit of a late challenge, so that's going to be a yellow. And so now Brentford essentially have a free kick here right at the top of the box, point blank. Yeah. My greatest Christmas present that I got was actually from myself. A couple of years ago, I bought my first house, and it closed a week before Christmas 2021. That was the best Christmas present I ever got. Although I will say now that there was, by the way, like when I was a kid, my parents literally put no thought into the gifts they gave me, right? My brother and sister used to get really good gifts. And for 8 straight years, I got a bathrobe. And I remember my mom asking one year what I wanted for Christmas. I may have been like 13, 14. And I said, listen, please, no more bathrobes. And I took her into my room. As here's the free kick. And that ball is going to actually take a deflection off the wall. So that looks like that's going to be a corner. And I remember taking my mom into the room and I just said, please, no more bathrobes. And I showed her into my closet, and there were 8 bathrobes, one for every Christmas I got from the 8 previous years. Yeah. So Brentford will have the corner here after the free kick engaged with the wall. Although I will say that one year my ex-wife got me a PS4 for Christmas. That was pretty cool. So Brentford will have the corner here. As they're going to attack 3 to the back post as that kick goes short, and that's going to be headed away. As they play it back to Kelleher now. Like, this match right here has been so boring. It's been a battle of attrition. Like, eventually somebody is going to accidentally score a goal. Oh, that's a good save right there. as Brentford actually got a very good opportunity and they're off a cross. Point blank, but right there was Vicario. And that might have been as Odeberg gets outrun. Was it their center back that outran Odeberg right there? I think that might have been Asia right there. Anyway. Oh, it might have even been Potter as well, too. Anywho, yeah, Spurs obviously didn't make any type of halftime adjustment here and are still continuing to play without any type of midfield presence, somebody they can play off of. And because of it, Spurs, their attack has just been absolutely dreadful. Brentford, by the way, hasn't really done much either. And so what we have now here in the 64th minute is, I guess, a stalemate. Not because not because like both teams have been so flawless on defense. Both teams have had opportunities to get forward, and they just haven't done anything with it. I think that's point in case right there. Good ball forward, couldn't handle it. As Kudus will play it back. And Vicario will just loop one forward. As Quixote now, as Brentford was able to keep this one on Spurs side of the pitch. As that one will go in, it finds Shada. Thiago will hold it in, Henry, and he puts one in, but right there was Romero. And yeah, there's going to be a whistle there. So we're in the 65th minute, and Spurs are looking for an answer here. They're looking for the answer to the riddle of how can we attack and make it look good. As it looks like Randall Kolomwani is going to be coming on here. As that one will go out. So Spurs will have a throw-in off the right-hand touchline here. It's going to be interesting to see. So Wilson Odeberg is coming out, and Kolo's coming on. Interesting. All right. I don't think this is going to do anything here. Unless they're going to potentially switch things up and have maybe two strikers. I doubt it, just from the configuration, because Archie Gray's still out there. Here's Porro, who's going to make the switch over to Judd Spence. As Spence is going to have to do something. That's a good pass forward. As Randall's going to get taken down. So this will be a free kick for Spurs. As Kolomwani's first touch there was pressure right there from Jordan Henderson. Here's Zhao. The other Zhao. As Betancourt. That's a nice little flick. And he stops for some reason. Here's Archie Gray. As Gray will play this one in. Here's Polina. Tries to play it to the right-hand side, but there was Kevin Shada to head it forward. Speaking of Shada, as he moves forward, there it is right there. As Pedro Porro was there to pick the blind side. As looks like, what was that? Betancourt played one forward to nobody in particular. So Brentford now will have the possession here. As we are approaching minute 70 now, which side is going to blink and actually give us a goal? And here's Quixote now off the right side. He's going to play one in. Headed away by Pedro Porro. Here's Richarlison. As that's taken away. As Quixote will break to the inside, but there's... Oh, he takes it away from Spence. Oh, and Thiago missed it. Brentford finally worked it into a dangerous area and actually had Igor Thiago open as he just took it away from Jed Spence. As Van de Ven tried to close it down, but right there was Thiago. Spurs dodge another bullet here. By the way, I don't think Spurs have had a corner in this match. No, they have yet to have a corner. How insanely wild is this? As it looks like Vicario is going to catch a yellow here. It looks like Vicario is catching strays. Here's Jed Spence. And that's taken away. Good defense right there by Keane Lewis Potter. Here's Kudus. Does a very good job right there of bodying. Here's Kolo Muani. Pushing forward. Here's Kolo. And that's taken away right there by Quixote. And I think this is going to be a goal kick. As we approach the 70th minute, man. This has actually been a dreadful performance, I got to be honest with you. As this ball is going to get played long. Shada will hit it forward. Here's Thiago. Now, granted, for as bad as Spurs are in the attack, so have Brentford. Although Brentford in the second half have had the better looks on net. And it's not like Spurs have been playing this lights-out defense. I think it just from attrition, this thing might end in a 0-0 draw. But good Lord, man. Even against Crystal Palace, they managed one. And could have actually had 3. And this one, they haven't even been remotely close to net at all. That's the crazy thing. It's like they just there's a takeaway. Here comes Quixote. Yes, they're going to play this one to the outside. Good play right there by Van de Ven. And it looks like Henderson will drag Van de Ven down, but as Van de Ven does a good job of blocking out Henderson. That's the disappointing thing about this is Spurs really have not been close to net at all. Like, not one attacking sequence has really put them in a dangerous area. As here's Shada. As that's taken away by Porro, played back to Vicario. And Vic will play this long. As that'll fall to Archie Gray. Here comes Spurs now on the break. Trying to play it forward to Kolo Muani. But that's going to get out for Spurs' first corner. As Jordan Henderson gifts us a corner. All right. Now we're cooking with gas here. I'm joking. We're not cooking with anything. As Pedro Porro looks like he's coming off. No, he's taking the corner. I was going to say. So this would be Spurs' first corner. And that didn't come until the 72nd minute. So Poro will play it. RKM's at the back post. Same thing with Van de Ven. Archie Gray is central. And that's going to get headed down. But here's Caduce fires. That's blocked. As Caduce will hold on. Here's Poro now. And right there is Kelleher. So Spurs don't do much with the corner. Good Lord. Let's see. Prepare ourselves. There we go. Prepare ourselves for Dane Scarlet winner. That's funny. No, she didn't ask for it back. That's funny, though. As Brentford now will hold possession, as Spurs really aren't pressing the issue here, as they're going to try to play one forward. There was just nobody there. As it looks like they were looking for, it's like that was what, Keane Lewis Potter right there. I'm actually kind of a fan of Keane Lewis Potter. I think he's actually a pretty good player. Same thing with Kevin Shada. As that ball's headed forward, but there's Pedro Poro. Makes the turn. And now he'll play this one forward. But right there, Jesus, was Collins. As Brentford will hold. Oh, they're gonna blow that one right there. They're going to blow that whistle right there. So this will be a free kick for Brentford here. As the play is restarted, here's Coyote. As Henderson will play one in. Headed away by Betancourt and now cleared. Yeah, I wouldn't mind seeing Dane Scarlett get an appearance. I wouldn't mind seeing Matisse Tell get an appearance on this one. Nothing really has worked so far through 75 minutes. I wouldn't mind seeing a little, a nice little change of pace. We got Olasesi on the bench too. Bring him in. Wouldn't mind seeing it. This has just been god awful. As Kelleher will play this long. Here's Shada. Looks like Pedro Poro mistimed it. Henry puts one in. And that's going to get cleared by Romero. So this will go out for a corner. As Jordan Henderson will take this one, the former Liverpool captain. You kind of wonder where his career would have went had he not taken off for Saudi Arabia. I think he ended up with Ajax for a year just to get away from Saudi. Now he's back in the Premier League, so kind of curious to see. I was kind of always wondered what happens if he didn't take the Saudi money. As Henderson will play one in. And that's going to drop, and now it's automatically cleared by Van de Ven. By the way, I don't blame him for taking the Saudi money at all. As Kelleher will play this long, headed forward, as Romero will head this one away. Given away right here. Here's Kevin Shada. And they're going to say free kick against Christian Romero, getting the feed of Keane Lewis Potter. I know there was this big hullabaloo back like in 2021, 2022. When I think Jordan Henderson did something about some kind of PSA about the human rights issue with Qatar and all that good stuff, and I think he was rigged through the coals because he turns around and takes Saudi money. But that being said, like if Saudi Arabia is willing to give you $10 million a year, as Henderson will play one in, Nice save right there by Vicario. I don't necessarily have a problem with it. At the end of the day, that's a good ball forward, as Jed Spence will find it. 1v1, and Spence is going to play this one back. And Betancourt will play one back. That's what it is, man. This is just clown shit right here. As here comes Brentford. And now they're going to try to play one forward. Nice play right there by Van de Ven. Yeah. The way that, the way that I look at it is these players have one opportunity to maximize how much money they make. Careers are finite to begin with anyways, so if somebody's willing to give you, as João Palhinha is now going to come off, and it looks like Matisse Tell is coming in. So it looks like there's going to be, so Palhinha is coming off, and Tell's coming on. As Schade comes off and Yarmouk comes off, as looks like Brentford is making a double switch. And it looks like Jensen and Nelson are coming on. Let's see. That's funny. Let's see. Same as Gary Neville. And then he became a World Cup spokesman. Yeah. But that being said, it's like I just don't have a problem with it, right? Like, everybody understood. Everybody understands what Saudi Arabia is all about. Same thing with Qatar. We all know that the wheels got greased for Qatar, just like they got with Saudi Arabia, and they're gonna do what. Ooh, that nearly went in. And what we all understand exactly what they're about. And we understand the fraud with FIFA. But that being said, as Ager nearly, actually that was all Vicario. He just jumped early, and because they're in the football business and because they have billions of dollars, they're going to try to attract the best talent. And if Jordan Henderson got $20 million to play a season over there, whatever, man, you're going to do what you're going to do, and you're going to do whatever is in the best interest of you and your career. I seriously I don't have any problem with anybody going to Saudi Arabia. It's not the best league in the world, so if you're a national team player, good luck. As here comes Brentford now. This might be Reece Nelson. As that ball's taken away. Here's Henry. Here's Nelson. As that ball's going to try to play down around the corner. And Spurs will take that away. As Kolobwani now will try to clear it, but Brentford holds it in. Here's Nelson against Kolo. Here's Ginault. Henderson, that ball's going to get deflected and blocked, and now finally cleared. Oh, and Archie Gray misplayed it right there. And there's the late whistle against Keane Lewis Potter. I think right now it's funny because I think that Saudi Arabia has a standing offer for Mo Salah to come to Saudi Arabia to play with Al Hilal. And it's something stupid. I mean, it's they're willing to pay 60 to 80 million pounds just to get him there, and then pay him like 15-20 million dollars a season. And with a guy like Salah who's pretty much won every single trophy, it's like if you're in that situation, you're already a Muslim guy going to a Muslim country. Like, why wouldn't you just take the money and finish out your career good? Ooh, why wouldn't you just take the money? Although the same could be said with Major League Soccer as well too. Major League Soccer would have a financial interest in Mo Salah, although I don't think he's coming to MLS. As Kolomwani gives this chase, as Henry does a good job right there. And now here comes Brentford in transition. Here's Jordan Henderson. As we're in the 83rd minute now, as this snooze fest certainly possession-wise, Brentford's had the better last 10-15 minutes. Spurs, on the other hand, just absolutely cannot do anything. As it looks like they have moved Archie Gray into a deep-lying playmaker. Here's Nelson trying to get around the corner. Good play right there by Pedro Porro. But then it's Henderson, into a dangerous area. And it looks like they finally moved Kudus to that 10 role with RKM on the right and Matisse Tell on the left with Richarlison playing through the middle. They literally can't do anything, can they? Here's Vicario, who's got to play it long. As that came all the way down to Brentford. No resistance either. Nobody even wanted to try to go up and try to challenge for that ball. As it comes down to Kudus, here's Betancourt now. Here's Porro. Porro tries to play it forward and completely misses Kudus, but this is taken away. Here comes Spurs now. Good Paul Ford. Here's they got one in. Richarlison was covered though. That was Rodrigo Betancourt. That's a nice little play. They got an inverted run by Betancourt, who played one over, and Richarlison was just late. As Azier got there too, and he's still down as he's just trying to work the rest of this clock out. So the physios will come out here as we are now in the 86th minute. But yeah, like the game, this game has been shambles. Yeah, that, by the way, obviously this game has been more than just shambles. It's been what's the good word? The word I'm looking for here is this game has been a joke from start to finish. Spurs have had their attack has been absolutely toothless. And, that's the thing. It's like Thomas Frank rectifies the situation in the 75th, 80th minute and finally puts Kudus in a central area where they're at least going to have somebody that can hold the ball up and try to play off of. But, he doesn't start the game that way. And, for the entire first half, Spurs literally, I think they only had mustered 3 shots on 3 shots on goal in the first half, no corners. And instead of adjusting at the half and try to put themselves in a little bit of a better situation, he rolls with it into the 75th minute before finally tactically switching. Now is the time where we can actually start playing football. And maybe we might actually nick a goal and come away with 3 points. And it's and now Brentford's actually starting to look a lot better on defense now. Spurs, it was just by attrition that Brentford looked good on defense because Spurs' attack was just that bad. As looked like Asia will come off now. And he will come back in just a second. So Kelleher will play this forward. Meanwhile, at least Brentford's attack on occasions has looked good. The last 15 minutes, they've had a couple decent looks. Nothing really materialized. Like this was actually one of their worst performances. As that ball gets played forward, held in by Brentford. Good passing. Chip forward. There's Pedro Porro. Oh, and Richarlison tried to play it over. There was just nobody there. Here's Jordan. And now it's too late for Spurs to. Well, it's technically not too late, but there's no faith that Spurs are going to put one in the last minute and a half, and whatever stoppage time there is. And by the way, coming up on the 4th, on Sunday, we get Sunderland, who is not going to be an easy out. Sunderland plays with a lot of physicality. Very good defensive team. Their center backs aren't exactly the most athletic, but they are physical and imposing. As there's a ball right to Vicario, as Nelson tried to play one on. And they're a good counterattacking team. The game that they played at Stamford Bridge, was a perfect representation of the way that Sunderland likes to play ball. As that ball for Archie Gray goes absolutely nowhere. So 5 minutes of added time here. As Spurs literally cannot put together two passes. And it looks like Mikkel Damsgaard's about to come in. Looks like Damsgaard wishing he probably would have came to Spurs. He probably would have been playing. Here's Betancourt. Plays it back to VDV. And VDV is going to have to shoot one forward. Headed on down. Right to Romero. And Kudus just plays it right back to Betancourt. Instead of on the turn and push forward, he just plays it back. Here comes Spurs. Here comes Kudus. Here's Kudus. Kudus will switch to the left-hand side. Here's Tell. As Jed Spence tried to play one, and that automatically gets headed away. See, that is the difference of having somebody in that central area. That was a good little switch right there from Kudus to find Matisse Tell. Here's as Jed Spence gets tripped, no call. And here comes Brentford now, as they're going to try to play forward. Too heavy of a touch right there off of Thiago, and so that gets played all the way back to Vicario. Like it gets tough doing these live streams every single week when you kind of have an idea of exactly how these things are going to play out. As Richarlison gets taken down, no call. So here's Thiago 1v1 against Romero. Good tap away by Romero. Good defense right there. Good individual performance by Romero. And then that ball's taken away from Kudus, but Kudus stays on it. Plays it off to RKM. Here's Colo across the box, and Richarlison gets on it, but the shot was weak. That was their first legit attacking sequence that looked good, and it came in the 92nd minute. Oh, wow. And it looks like now Spurs are playing with intention. Finally. Just too little too late, as we're 2 minutes away from the final whistle here. Here comes Brentford, as Collins will play it off to Nelson, as they're looking for Keane Lewis-Potter, who gets bullied off the ball. And that was Betancourt, and Pedro Porro's upset because he misplayed a ball. Oh, he was also upset because Home Dude was supposed to be there. So Quixote will have the long throw here. As that gets headed out, but kept in. Here's Richarlison. Tries to clear it, but it falls to Kudus. Taken away. Slide tackle by Romero. And here's Richarlison, who finds the end of it. He has Matisse Tell, and he just chips it right to Kelleher. As we have about 30 seconds left to play here. Here's Henderson. And it looks like they're just going to, grind down the clock here. That's a good ball in. And Spurs will take it away, so there it is. Boy, oh boy, was this a terrible performance from Spurs. He says, Carl says, I'm not Frank out, but I've been so disappointed with him and the team more often times than not. Actually, here's the thing. I'm not necessarily Frank out either, but I'm also not Frank in either. I'm Tottenham Hotspur in. I just want what's best for this club. And there's no excuses. It's like, I get it, right? Papsar is at AFCON. Lucas Bergvall picks up a knock against Crystal Palace. He's not available. Xavi's on a red. I get it, but there's still no excuses. There are workarounds. And when you actually have a starting 11 without a functional 10, you're starting the match at a disadvantage, because Brentford understands that there's not necessarily going to be a lot of traction through the center of the park, right? So where are we? We're either playing long balls over the top, or we're going to be trying to produce something down the wings. And so from that standpoint, they were able to set up. We absolutely had nobody to pulling the string or playing the ball off in the central areas. And this is not an indictment on Archie Gray. It's just he's not that guy. I'm sorry, he's just not that guy. And so we have a pathetic first half. And then instead of rectifying the problem at the half and bringing in Randall Colomwani and playing him off the right, it's not ideal. I get it. But at least you're going to be able to have somebody that can hold the ball up in central areas, that is going to be able to spray it to both sides, or hypothetically off the half turn and then push forward. But we don't see that until the 78th minute, the 75th minute, and it's like, what is your intention for this game? To not lose? That's not football at all. Your intention is to what? well, if we can't get it going, at least our defense, our defense is going to be able to keep us in it. And who knows, maybe through a battle of attrition, we might be able to poke one in and walk away with 3. But unfortunately, it just didn't happen. We absolutely had zero attack in this game. There was zero functioning attack. Like that, by the way, that last little sequence right there at the end where Richarlison finally gets onto one, that was really the first time that we actually really mustered a legit shot on net. That was it. I think we only had one corner the entire game. How is that even possible? Like I don't want to talk shit about getting a point, but I think Carl here says it. Like, yeah, both teams deserve 0 points from this one. It was a very pathetic performance. And by the way, I should point out that Brentford also didn't put one across, but they were the ones that actually did have moments. And there was a couple moments where they actually caught Spurs flat-footed, and Keane Lewis Potter duffed one. And it was who else was it? Was it Henderson that nearly scored as well too? I'm forgetting, but yeah, there is they actually had a couple decent looks, and if things break, we end up losing this match. But the reality is, it's not about them; it's about us, and we came absolutely unprepared for this one. Like this is what happens when nothing is working. We're just going to try to recycle the ball. We're going to be playing it between both center backs, and hopefully somebody makes a run. Of course, we didn't see that at all. We didn't see that at all. I didn't think Jed Spence looked good either. I thought Jed Spence on the left-hand side missed some opportunities with Wilson Odebear. In that first half, there were a couple opportunities where Wilson actually had the step on his defender. And again, if we had a left-footed left back, that ball goes to the outside shoulder, and who knows, maybe Wilson Odebear could have actually attacked and played something across. But from the most part, the problem that I have with this is that, yeah, I think you just took the words right out of my mouth. There is absolutely no chemistry within this team. Like, even in wins, they don't necessarily look great. Like, I didn't think they looked good at Crystal Palace at all. I just think that, Archie Gray was just in a position where he scored his first goal, and it's like, okay, cool. And for the most part, Crystal Palace was the front-footed team. It just didn't go their way. Okay, that's football. We get 3 points, and we get this one. This, on the other hand, was no strategy to begin with, and then no contingency plans when things aren't working. And so from that standpoint, we're just essentially just wasting time. And that's my biggest issue. And I'll just say this. I'll say this as well too before I get into the stats, right? So apparently we're supposed to have a war chest for this January window, and then also in the summer as well too. I just want to ask this question, okay? So if the funds are available to get players in, do you really want to model your team in a Thomas Frank attack? Like, do you want your team modeled? Because even if we do get better players, we're still playing this high possession game that that is supposed to bring wave and possession. And I don't know, man. Like, I'm just not a fan of this style of football. The reason why PSG is able to do it is because they have better players that have been playing that Luis Enrique style of ball for a while, so they have chemistry and they know how to play off each other. It didn't necessarily work for Arne Slot to begin the season, but it looks like Liverpool has kind of finally found their footing playing it. And of course, Arsenal play it, City plays it, but of course they have the wherewithal to bring in the players that know how to play that style of football. This team is not set up to do it. And every single time that we get into this horseshoe formation where we're just passing it, and there is no internal passes to central, to central playmakers. And it's just, you're sitting there just scratching your head. It's like, okay, cool. So who's going to be the guy who is going to try to play one over the top, or maybe we catch him switching from right to left, and maybe Pedro Porro, has 5 feet and plays one in. It's like, that's our attack. There is zero rhythm to this attack. There's zero bite to this attack. And it was on full display. Like, we just beat Brentford, 4 weeks ago? Where, at least we had the counterattack. At least we had Xavi Simons, and we were willing when we get a turnover in the central part of the pitch, literally, instead of trying to make 10 passes, it was literally ball forward, get Xavi on it, and Richarlison scores a goal. At least we had that. Like, we weren't even trying to do that today. It was literally, let's just slow it down. Let's just slow it down. Let's just slow it down, and we'll try to see if we can maybe shift and play a ball in. But it's, Jesus Christ, I'm so frustrated with these type of performances because it's not an indictment of Tottenham Hotspur football. Actually, it is an indictment. It's an indictment to Thomas Frank. The problem with this is, like, this is not Spurs football at all. This is the exact opposite of what Spurs football is. All right, let's get into the stats because this one's a doozy. Spurs lose the possession battle 56-44. So that's cool. Spurs do win the XG battle 1.01 to 0.83. Total shots, Spurs 9, Brentford 7. Shots on target 3-2. Neither team had any big chances. Accurate passes, Brentford 425, Spurs 320. Fouls committed, Spurs 10, Brentford 8. Corners, they beat us in the corner battle 3-1. We managed one corner all game. XG from open play, Spurs 0.86, Brentford 0.60. That's pathetic. Pathetic anyway. Total shots, let's see. Yeah, Spurs 9-7. Shots inside the box 7-4. Interesting. Let's see. Shots outside the box, Brentford 3, Spurs 2. Passes. Total, Brentford 514, Spurs 409. Passes in the own half, Brentford 231, Spurs 153. Passes in the own half, Brentford 194, Spurs 167. So they were holding the ball longer in our half than accurate long balls. It was even 23-23. Accurate crosses, Brentford 4, Spurs 1. Throws, Brentford 18, Spurs 16. Touches in the opposition box, even at 18. Discipline, Spurs had 2 yellow to Brentford's 1. Tackle battle, Brentford won the tackle battle 19-18. Spurs did a good job with interceptions. They took this one 10-9 over Brentford. Blocks, Brentford 5, Spurs 2. Clearances, Spurs 32-20. Duels, Spurs won the duel battle 53-46. They won the ground duel battle 35-31. They won the aerial duels 18-15, and successful dribbles 9-2. Yeah, and it pretty much played out. They pretty much played out the way that the numbers speak for themselves. This was an absolute shambolic performance. And yeah, that's the thing. It's like Yo-Yo right here says solid defensively, and it's like at times, sure, they really were. But that being said, it's like, the reason why Brentford didn't score because it was because of Brentford. They just, they just, for whatever reason, just in that moment weren't able to solidly connect with the ball. There were a couple times where we got caught flat-footed that they should have scored, and we were lucky that they didn't. But overall, yeah, I guess so. But I don't really give a shit. What I care about is beating teams that we should be blowing off the pitch. Like that's the thing that bugs me is not only should we be beating Brentford, but we should be putting them to the sword. And that's the problem. Like, we have yet to put a team to the sword this season. And it's kind of frustrating, too. Because in that Brentford match, we should have actually scored 4. And at halftime, we just kind of took our foot off the gas and meandered for a good 30, 40 minutes before Pap Sarr actually got on the end of one towards the end of that game. And that's the thing. It's like, I don't necessarily give a shit about the January window. I mean, I do, because we desperately need incomings, but the reality is it's like, okay, cool, because when we get those guys through the door, it's going to take a couple weeks for them to bed in. So the problem's not going to go away. But then again, when we do get them bed in, and they've had like a week or two of training, this is the attack. This is the attack in which we play. And it's going to be the same. I hate to be the one to say it. It's going to be the same. And it's, I wonder whether or not this thing is going to improve. Now, from the offset, like, obviously you would think that with incomings, we should just by default improve. But I don't know, man. Maybe I'm one of those guys that feels like we've gotten so far away from our identity that it's just been kind of painful to watch, man. That's the kind of way that I feel. The last couple managers that successfully, I guess you can say, successfully played Spurs football were Harry Redknapp and Maurizio Pochettino. And I think we've gotten so far away from it that it's hard doing these games and watching a boring, stagnant attack. And yeah, I get it, man. No Bergvall, no Sarr, no Xavi. I get it, but there are ways you can work around it, and we didn't see that workaround until the 75th minute. And it felt like Thomas Frank was fine with the 0-0 draw. It was fine being ultra conservative, not taking any chances, not taking any risks. Our team couldn't link two passes together. And it's just, yeah, and this is the other problem. I don't think Thomas Frank knows who our best 11 is. At least when healthy, Ange knew exactly who his best 11 was. When healthy, he knew who the best 11 was. And I don't want to get into Ange, but at least I will say that under Ange Postecoglou, we had an attacking identity. It might not have been popular, but we knew exactly what the plan was every single time down the pitch. Sometimes it worked beautifully, and sometimes we were so open that we were gutted like a fish. So we need both players and tactics to change. Both should go hand in hand, allowing us to see a vision. And if not, Frank has to go. Yeah, me personally. See, that's the thing, right? So let's understand that Thomas Frank was a Daniel Levy hire. He was co-signed by Johan Lang. Obviously, both of those guys are Danish. But the interesting thing about this is, like, if you're reading the tea leaves here, if you're connecting the dots, the reason why they're going to allow Paratici to go to Fiorentina is because he was considered a Daniel Levy guy. He was the last piece of business Daniel Levy did before he was pushed out the door. So if they're able to allow home dude Paratici to go to Fiorentina, it makes me wonder whether or not they'd be willing to let Frank go at the end of the year. because clearly there are going to be better options available after the World Cup. Like if they want to go, back to Pochettino, he's going to be available. If they want to go Tuchel, they can go Tuchel. If they want to go Nagelsmann, they can go in that direction. There's going to be better coaches available this time around, where no matter which direction you go, we're going to have the personnel in order to do it. By that point in time, we are going to have the players in place and the personnel to actually field a good 11. An 11 that's not only going to score goals, but also put us in a position where we're actually going to challenge for things. I have zero faith that we're going to challenge for anything this year. I hate to be the one to say it. That's just the way that I feel. A big part of me thinks that we're going to lose to Villa in the FA Cup draw coming up. By the way, with that draw here, we have 7 wins and 7 draws on the year, 26 points, which has us tied with Newcastle. Fulham today drew with Crystal Palace, so both of those teams, and Brentford, by the way, sit in front of us on 27 points. So we're still kind of right there in the mix, theoretically speaking. The European places, I think, go all the way to 6. So we're only 4 points off of Manchester United, and Chelsea. But I don't know, man. I don't feel like we're even close. Now, maybe things change, and maybe we're able to get a couple good pieces in, and it rights the ship. But listen, man. I just don't have. I'll just be the first one to say it. I don't think I really have faith in Thomas Frank, and it's the one of the things that I liked about Frank coming into it was the fact that he wasn't necessarily tactically married, right? I think Luke Samuel said it best that he's too adjust. He's too. It's not even that. It's like coming in, you would say that he was too. He's too adjustable. And essentially, by that means he was willing to play the percentages and play different formations depending on the opponent. Now you're seeing that is not the case at all, and he is willing to bang the drum, even if it puts us in a position of weakness. And that is and you wonder whether or not that mentality switch happened when he went from Brentford to Tottenham, and maybe he understands that this club is absolutely different, and he has to play a specific way, even if it means that he loses. Because if he does get fired, at least you go out doing it in a way that you can explain in interviews going forward. In the meantime, this is by the way, this is January 1st, 2026. It's New Year's. And we have been playing essentially since the second week of August. This is what we've had 4 months already in. And we still have no continuity. We have no momentum. We don't really even know what our starting 11 is, our best 11. And it looks like our players are uncomfortable on the pitch. Trying to play a style that clearly does not suit them. And it's like I can see the table. I can see the table with my own eyes, and it's like, yeah, points wise, it looks like we're still within shouting distance. But when you see this team play, does it? I don't know. Maybe you guys can tell me. Does this team look like a team that can challenge for European spots? It looks like a team that doesn't even know how to wipe their own ass, let alone contend for things right now. Let's see, our form needs to, without a doubt, man. But I'll just say this, right? My expectations coming into the season were simple. And it was, I just want to see consistent performances. from week to week to week. I want to see a team that is confident in the way that they get forward, but also is responsible when they track back. Right? That was the problem last year under Ange. It was like they had no problem in their confidence getting forward. It was we just never tracked back. And we were absolutely punished in the league for it. And so from that standpoint, it was like, also on top of the injuries as well too, and our season cratered. But my expectation was anywhere between spot 6 and 9 in the Premier League. Like at best, we're a Europa League team, because I feel like the talent on this team is actually good enough to do that if we're organized. Like I firmly believe that the talent that we possess. Now, granted, there's some injuries that took away some key players, but I still think that we're still decent enough where if things break even and we're able to get some guys back, that we actually have a team capable of doing that. So if we finished anywhere between 6 and 8 in the Premier League, that would be a good starting off point, because remember, Ange Postecoglou was able to play himself into a 5th place position. And a lot of that had to do with his start, not exactly the finish in that year, but my point is taken, right? Challenge for Wembley in one of the domestic cups. Last year, we got within 90 minutes of Wembley in the League Cup. So this year, it was that. It was like at least get to a semifinal, if not get to Wembley in one of the cup competitions, because again, I think there was a road for that. And who knows, maybe that happens in the FA Cup. And then in the Champions League, at least get to the knockout rounds. That would like, to me, that would be a good first year for Thomas Frank. The bar isn't exactly high. If you can get like 7th, a trip to Wembley and getting to the knockout rounds of the Champions League, I think that would actually be a pretty solid year for Thomas Frank. And we saw that Thomas Frank devalued the League Cup, and we get knocked out of that. And so far in the Premier League, to me, I feel like this team, performance-wise, is closer to a relegation scrap than we are for European play. But because we got a gift in the Champions League, and we weren't necessarily, our schedule wasn't packed with some of the heavies in Europe. It looks like we're actually going to get at least to the first stage of the knockouts, which would be great. But and who knows what's going to happen in the FA Cup. But like, this team is so far from where their talent suggests that they should be. I just look at this and I'm like, okay, well, what's the one constant? What's the one problem with this team that's kind of keeping them from actually playing up to their potential? And it's like, okay, well, it's obvious, right? So I'm going to close by saying this. See, priority 1 should be, the league. Yeah, 100%. That should be your bread and butter. I'll just say this because, here in the United States, I've been fortunate enough to get involved with a few of our clubs over here. And I can tell you that coaches are just like players when it comes to ego. A lot of coaches have spent a lot of years developing a style of football that they want to play. And when they come into a job, the first thing they want to do is change everything. And for certain clubs, it's necessary, right? And especially if you're taking over a team that has been struggling because for whatever reason, maybe that change is absolutely good. But there's also times where you're going to a team that's not the issue. That's not the reason. Like, I'll give you a good example. And I've said this a couple times already. Like, when Arne Slot took over for Jurgen Klopp, that wasn't the case, right? That was a team that, literally is good enough to win the Premier League every single year. And so it's not exactly, a type of team where you need to change the culture and you need to change the attitude. And to his credit, he didn't really change much. They were still, the counter-pressing pain in the ass team that they always were. And we saw it. I think the only things that he really did was, instead of having Mo Salah track back and play defense, they just kind of kept him higher up the pitch. And he also had the bodies and able to do that. And I think he brought Ryan Gravenberch into the team as well too. Not a lot really changed, and because of it, they were comfortable. They went out and won the Premier League. It was only this year when Arne Slot wanted to go back to play the style of football that he's been trying to fine-tune over the last 15 years of his career. And because he's so enamored with this total football, this high possession total football that every coach seems to want to play, you're dealing with a team that has spent the last 10 years, essentially in a gegenpress. There was going to be struggles, and they struggled. But they're also back to. It looks like they finally figured it out. With Spurs, it was like one of the things I was talking with Dave Harris about was that if there's any team in the league that can play a 4-4-2, it's Spurs. They're set up to do it. If you wanted to keep them defensively organized, there was a way to do it and still be able to play direct, because one of the things that Spurs have are pretty decent finishers, and we have guys that actually can run. And but that wasn't the agenda. The agenda was to be this, this progressive possession-based team that is anything but. We can hold on to the ball, but what does it matter if we're not doing shit with the ball? And once we lost, James Madison, that was going to be an issue, but we replaced him with Xavi. So there's, that's the thing. It's I just look at it and I'm like, maybe if Thomas Frank actually, and by the way, it's not just a Thomas Frank issue too. Ange Postecoglou was guilty of this too with Nottingham Forest. The ability to come in and say, oh, okay, I don't have the personnel to do this. So maybe, just maybe, we'll keep things simple. And as the season goes along, you kind of introduce different wrinkles of how you want to play football. You essentially spoon feed them instead of just we're just going to do this and you're responsible. Your responsibility is to do what I say. That's not a good recipe, right? I actually have an extreme amount of respect for coaches that actually look at the team that they have and actually try to play to the strengths of their team, and instead of trying to, force a square peg into a round hole. So to me, I don't know, man. My biggest issue is, even with a shitload of money at his disposal to bring in players that are going to be better fits for the way that he wants to, I still don't think that this team is going to excel under Thomas Frank. It's just the way that I feel. Carl Slim Blue says, Romero better drop some big bombas very soon. Yeah, dude, I'm missing a Mickey Van de Ven goal. All right, well, that's going to do it for me, guys. Spurs draw with a team they probably should have blown out the water. Instead of picking up 3 and moving to 28 points, which would have put them in the top 10 and easily within shouting distance of a European spot. Instead, they settle for 1 in what I would consider a disappointing match. As we look forward to Sunday, Spurs will obviously have Sunderland at the stadium, so I will be here at 10 o'clock Eastern for Spurs versus Sunderland, and of course on Saturday I will have a little bit of a pre-match build-up, and we're also going to be talking a little bit about the transfer market as well too. Make sure you hit the like and subscribe buttons, and also hit the notification bell so you don't miss out on any of that. And hopefully I'll have somebody along for that Saturday show as well too. So, we're just chugging right along as we're trying to set you guys up for a, at least a semi-decent January transfer window. So we'll see what happens. By the way, earlier today, Crystal Palace drew 1-1 with Fulham in what was a boring game. Liverpool drew with Leeds United 0-0, snooze fest. Man City and Sunderland drew 0-0 as well, too. So we actually finished today with 3 0-0 draws today. Holy crap. What a day. What a day of football. All right, guys. You guys take care, and I will see you very shortly Saturday. Actually, yeah, Saturday evening, I think. So we'll see you then. Take care, guys. Have a good night.